Kang Ji-ho walked through the broken door of the old apartment building. His expensive shoes made soft sounds on the dirty metal steps. He held a small computer that showed someone owed him money for 3 months. The building smelled bad and the air was thick. Ji-ho owned many buildings on New Seoul Colony. Most people paid their rent on time, but sometimes he had to visit people who could not pay. He expected the woman in apartment 307 to cry or make excuses. Maybe she would beg for more time. The hallway was dark. Old lights hung from the ceiling, but only half of them worked. Paint was falling off the walls. Ji-ho could hear machines working somewhere in the building, keeping the air clean enough to breathe. He stopped at door 307 and knocked. No answer. He knocked again. Harder this time. Still nothing. The door was not locked, so he pushed it open. The room was small and messy. Clothes were everywhere. Empty food containers sat on a tiny table. But what caught his attention was the strange machine in the corner. It was about the size of a washing machine, but covered in lights that blinked in patterns he had never seen before. A young woman was slumped over the machine. Her name was Kim Nari according to his computer. She had dark skin and her black hair was pulled back. Her hands were still moving, even though she seemed to be asleep. She was working with some kind of cloth that looked impossible. The fabric in her hands seemed to move by itself. Sometimes it looked solid, like normal cloth. Then it would become see-through. Like water, the edges of the material bent the light round them, making strange rainbow colors. "Miss Kim," Ji-ho said quietly. Nari jumped and turned round fast. Her eyes were red and tired. She looked like she had not slept in days. "Mr. Kang, I know I owe you money. I'm sorry. I just need a little more time." "What is this machine?" Ji-ho asked. He stepped closer, trying to understand what he was seeing. "It's hard to explain," Nari said. Her voice sounded rough. "Like she had been talking for hours. I found pieces of a crashed spaceship in the empty areas outside the city. This material, it's not made by humans." Ji-ho had heard about the alien ships 6 months ago. Strange vessels started appearing near human colonies. The government called them the hegemony. They would come, look around, sometimes attack, then leave. Everyone was scared. "The cloth looks normal, but it's not." Nari continued. She picked up a small piece of the fabric. "Watch this." She pressed a button on the machine. The cloth in her hand became completely clear, like it was not there at all. Then she pressed the button again and it became solid. "How does it work?" Ji-ho asked. "I think it exists in different states at the same time," Nari said. "When the machine sends a signal, it changes which state we can see. I've been trying to copy it for weeks." Ji-ho looked round the small apartment. There were papers covered, in drawings and numbers everywhere. Books about science and physics were stacked in tall piles. Empty coffee cups sat on every surface. "You've been working on this alone?" he asked. "I had two." Nari said, "If the government knew about this, they would take it away. They would give it to big companies or the military. But I think this could help regular people protect themselves." She showed him more pieces of the strange fabric. Some were thick, like blankets. Others were thin like paper. All of them had the same impossible quality of seeming to exist and not exist at the same time. The aliens use this technology in their ships. Nari explained. "That's why our weapons can't hit them. They phase in and out of reality. But if humans could make clothes from this material, we could protect ourselves." Ji-ho finished her sentence. "Exactly," Nari said. "But I need better equipment, better materials. And I need to eat something other than instant noodles." Jiho looked at the exhausted young woman and her impossible machine. He had come here to collect rent money. Instead, he had found something that could change everything. Miss Kim, he said slowly, forget about the rent. What do you need to make this work? Nari stared at him for a moment. Then tears started running down her face. Really, really, Jiho said. But I want to help you. This is too important for one person to handle alone. Nari wiped her eyes and looked back at her machine. The strange fabric continued to shimmer and phase, holding secrets that could save humanity. For the first time in weeks, she smiled. Okay, she said. Let me show you everything. Outside the small apartment, the colony continued its daily routine. People worked and lived and worried about the alien ships that might come again. None of them knew that in a tiny room filled with impossible fabric, the future of human survival was being sewn together one thread at a time. Nari sat down on her small chair and started explaining everything to Jiho. Her hands moved quickly as she talked, pointing to different parts of her machine and the strange fabric. I used to study quantum physics at the university, she said. Before the aliens came and everyone had to leave Earth, I learned about how tiny particles can be in two places at the same time. Jiho nodded, even though he did not completely understand. He knew Nari was smart. You had to be smart to make a machine like this in a tiny apartment. Normal cloth is simple. Nari continued. You take threads and weave them together. But this alien material is different. Each thread is connected to other threads in ways we cannot see. She picked up a piece of the fabric and held it up to the light. The threads exist in multiple states at the same time. Sometimes they are solid. Sometimes they are like air. The machine tells them which state to be in. How did you figure this out? Jiho asked. I found the crashed ship 3 months ago, Nari said. It was buried in the rocks outside the city. Most of it was destroyed, but some pieces were still working. I brought them here and started taking them apart. She showed him photos on her computer. The alien ship looked like nothing Jiho had ever seen. It was made of smooth metal that curved in impossible ways, even broken and buried. It looked dangerous. The aliens call themselves the Velta, Nari said. I learned that from the ship's computer before it died. They have been attacking human colonies for months, learning how we fight. Jiho remembered the news reports, ships appearing from nowhere, weapons that passed through human shields like they were not there. Entire colonies going silent overnight. Our weapons cannot hit their ships, Nari said. Our shields cannot stop. Their weapons, they exist in a different phase of reality. But with this fabric, humans could do the same thing. She walked over to her machine and pressed several buttons. The fabric in the center started to glow with soft blue light. Then it became see-through, like looking through water. Watch this, Nari said. She picked up a metal tool and tried to touch the fabric. The tool passed right through it, like the fabric was not there at all. Now watch, she said. Pressing another button, the fabric became solid again. This time, when she touched it with the tool, it made a small ringing sound. Solid, then not solid, then solid again. Jiho said quietly, the aliens use this to avoid our attacks. Yes, Nari said, but if humans wore clothes made from this material, we could avoid their attacks too. Personal shields that work by existing in different phases of reality. She showed him a small piece of fabric that she had sewn into the shape of a glove. I tested this yesterday. I put it on and turned on the phase shift. My hand became invisible. I could pass it through solid objects. Jiho stared at the glove. That's impossible. I thought so too, Nari said. But the science works. The aliens discovered it first. But there's no reason humans cannot learn it too. She sat back down, looking very tired. I have been working for 3 days without sleep. The machine is almost finished. I think I can make larger pieces of fabric soon. Maybe entire suits. Suits that could protect soldiers, Jiho said. Or regular people. Nari said everyone could have protection. The Velta would not be able to hurt us anymore. Jiho looked round the small apartment again. Papers covered every surface. Empty food containers were stacked in corners. The air smelled like coffee and exhaustion. Why haven't you told the government about this? He asked. And Era laughed. But it was not a happy sound. The government would take everything. They would put me in a lab somewhere and make me work for them. Then they would give the technology to big companies who would sell it only to rich people. But you could save lives. Jiho said, I know. Nari said, that's why I keep working. But I want to do it right. I want to make sure everyone can have this protection. Not just soldiers and wealthy people. She picked up the small square of fabric again and activated the phase shift. The material flickered between solid and translucent. Like it could not decide which state to be in. I'm close to a breakthrough, she said. Maybe one more day of work. But I need better equipment, stronger power sources, and food that is not instant noodles. Jiho made a decision. The rent is forgiven. Tell me what you need and I will get it for you. Nari looked at him with surprise. Really? Really? Jiho said, this is bigger than rent money. This could save humanity. I need rare metals for the machine. Nari said quickly, quantum processors, a better power source, and maybe some help from other scientists. I know people. Jiho said, I can get what you need. Outside the apartment window, the sun was setting. Over Nusol Colony, in the distance, ships moved through the sky carrying people and supplies. None of them knew that in a small room filled with impossible fabric, two people were planning to change the course of the war against the aliens. Jiho kept his promise. Within 1 week. His expensive penthouse apartment looked completely different. The beautiful furniture was gone. In its place were tables covered with scientific equipment. Computers hummed quietly in every corner. The windows were covered with thick curtains to keep their work secret. Nari could not believe the change. She had spent months working alone in a tiny apartment with broken equipment. Now she had access to machines that cost more money than she had ever seen. This is amazing, she said, running her hands over a new quantum processor. With this equipment, I can work 10 times faster. Jiho had also brought help. His business partner Lee Minjin arrived on the 3rd day carrying heavy boxes. Minjin was a short man with grey hair and careful eyes. He had been an engineer in the military before starting his own company. So you're the genius Jiho told me about, Minjin said when he met Nari. He says you figured out alien technology. I'm trying to, Nari said, but I'm just one person. I need help from someone who understands engineering. Minjin was suspicious. At first, he had seen many people claim to have amazing discoveries that turned out to be fake. But when Nari showed him the fabric samples, his attitude changed quickly. This is impossible, he said, looking at the fabric through a powerful microscope. The structure looks normal, but something is wrong. The quantum signature keeps changing. That's exactly right. Nari said excitedly, the fabric exists in multiple quantum states at the same time. The machine controls which state we can see and touch. For the next 4 days, the 3 of them worked together almost without stopping. Minjin brought his engineering knowledge. Jiho provided money and resources. Nari shared everything she had learned about the alien technology. They made progress faster than Nari had ever imagined possible. The new equipment allowed her to create larger pieces of fabric. The quantum processors made the phase shifting more stable. Minjin's engineering skills helped them build better control systems. "I think we're ready for the big test," Nari announced. On the 5th day, she held up what looked like an ordinary grey jumpsuit. But Jiho and Minjin could see the small lights built into the fabric and the thin wires that ran through the material like veins. "This is more than just a personal shield," Nari explained. "The quantum threads can do many things. They can make the wearer phase shift to avoid attacks. They can increase speed and strength. They might even deflect energy weapons. How do we test it?" Minjin asked. "Someone has to wear it," Nari said. "But it could be dangerous. We don't know all the effects yet." "I'll do it," Jiho said immediately. "No," Minjin said. "You're not a soldier. I have military training. I should test it." "It's my discovery," Nari said. "I should be the one to test it." They argued for several minutes. Finally, Jiho convinced them that he should be the test subject. "It's my equipment and my apartment," he said. "If something goes wrong, I'm responsible." Nari helped him put on the jumpsuit. It felt surprisingly light and comfortable. The fabric seemed to adjust itself to fit his body perfectly. Small lights along the arms and chest began to glow softly. "How do you feel?" Nari asked. "Strange," Jiho said. "Like there's electricity running through my skin, but not painful." Nari activated the control system from her computer. "Phase shift test first." "Minjin, fire the practice laser at his chest." Minjin picked up a small laser device that they used for cutting metal. It was weak enough to be safe, but strong enough to prove the test was real. "Are you sure about this?" Minjin asked. "Do it," Jiho said. Minjin aimed the laser at Jiho's chest and pressed the trigger. A thin red beam shot across the room. But instead of hitting Jiho, the beam passed right through him as if he was made of air. "Incredible," Minjin whispered. "Phase shift successful," Nari said, grinning for the first time in days. "But that's not all the suit can do. Jiho, try walking to that wall." Jiho took a normal step forward, but instead of moving slowly, he found himself crossing the entire room in what felt like an instant. One moment he was standing near Nari. The next moment he was touching the far wall. "What just happened?" he asked, looking back at them in shock. "Enhanced speed," Nari said. "The quantum field around your body allows you to move faster than normal. Physics should allow." Jiho looked down at his hands. They seemed to glow with a faint light. He felt stronger than he had ever felt in his life. When he touched the wall, his fingers left small marks in the metal. "The suit doesn't just provide protection," Nari explained. "It enhances human capabilities beyond anything we've ever seen. Speed, strength, the ability to phase through solid objects." Minjin was taking notes as fast as he could write. "If we can mass-produce these suits, human soldiers could match the aliens' abilities. Maybe even exceed them. Not just soldiers," Jiho said, still amazed by what he was experiencing. "Everyone could have this protection." Nari nodded. "That's the goal. But first, we need to make sure it's safe, and we need to figure out how to make more of them quickly." Outside the penthouse windows, the city of New Seoul continued its normal routine. But inside the transformed apartment, 3 people had just changed the future of humanity's war against the aliens. The alarm sirens started screaming at dawn. Jiho woke up in his penthouse and immediately knew what the sound meant. The aliens had come back. He ran to the window and looked up at the sky. 3 large ships were coming down through the clouds. They moved in a way that seemed wrong. Like they were not quite solid. The ships looked like giant metal teardrops with no visible engines or weapons. Nari, Minjin, Jiho shouted. They had been sleeping in the penthouse for the past 3 days, working almost without rest. Nari had pushed herself harder than ever before, trying to make as many quantum suits as possible. I can see them, Nari said, joining him at the window. Her eyes were red from exhaustion but alert. 3 ships, probably carrying about 50 soldiers each. How many suits do we have ready? Minjin asked. 47. Nari said. I finished the last one an hour ago. It was not enough to protect everyone in the colony, but it was all they had. Jiho had already made a list of the best fighters in New Seoul, Marines from the colonial defense. Force, police officers with combat training, volunteers who had military experience. The first alien ship landed in the central plaza with no sound at all. The metal hull seemed to ripple like water, then became solid again. A door opened that had not been there before. We need to get the suits to the fighters now, Jiho said. They had prepared for this moment. The 47 suits were packed in boxes, ready to be distributed. Jiho had vehicles waiting to carry them to different parts of the city. The Colonial Defense Force was already fighting. Jiho could see their fighter planes attacking the alien ships, but their missiles and laser weapons passed right through the enemy vessels like they were shooting at ghosts. The aliens are using phase technology to avoid our attacks, Nari explained as they loaded the suits into vehicles. But our people wearing the quantum suits should be able to hit them. Sergeant Park Suna was the first person to receive a suit. She was a Marine with 10 years of combat experience. Her hands were steady as she put on the grey jumpsuit, even though alien soldiers were already coming out of their ships. How does it work? She asked Nari. Think about becoming invisible and the suit will respond, Nari said quickly. Think about moving fast and it will help you. The suit reads your intentions and adjusts the quantum field. Suna nodded and ran toward the central plaza, behind her. Other fighters were putting on their suits and spreading out across the city. The Velta soldiers looked like humans but taller and thinner. Their skin was pale grey, and their eyes were completely black. They carried weapons that glowed with purple energy and wore armor that seemed to be made of the same phase-shifting material as their she. Peas Suna reached the plaza just as a group of alien soldiers materialized near the fountain. They had been invisible, but now they became solid to attack the human civilians who were running away. Let's see how you like this, Suna said. Activating her suit, she felt the strange tingling sensation that Jiho had described. The world around her seemed to slow down. She could see the aliens turning toward her, their weapons rising. But they moved like they were underwater. Suna thought about moving fast, and suddenly she was. Behind the alien soldiers, they were still turning to face where she had been standing. Their black eyes went wide with surprise. She struck the first alien with her rifle. The blow that would normally just bruise a human sent the Velta soldier flying across the plaza. The enhanced strength from her suit was incredible. The other aliens fired their plasma weapons at her. The purple energy beams should have killed her instantly. Instead, they passed harmlessly through her body as she face-shifted. Impossible, one of the aliens said in their strange language. But Suna was just getting started. She moved between them like a ghost, striking with precision and power they could not match. Within minutes, the entire alien squad was down. Across the city, similar battles were happening. Lieutenant Oh Jun-ho appeared behind an alien formation near the spaceport. His enhanced speed allowed him to disable their weapons before they knew. He was there. Officer Kim Derry used his suit's phase shifting to walk through walls and attack aliens from directions they never expected. The Velta had never faced enemies who could match their technology. For months, they had been winning battles easily because human weapons could not touch their phase-shifted ships and soldiers. Now, suddenly, humans were phase-shifting too, within 1 hour. The battle was over. Most of the alien soldiers were dead. A few had managed to retreat to their ships and escape. But several aliens had been captured alive. Jiho found Nari sitting on a bench in the plaza, watching the cleanup. She looked completely exhausted but satisfied. "We did it," she said quietly. One of the captured Velta commanders was brought before them. The alien looked at Nari with something that might have been fear. "Impossible," the alien said in broken human language. "You are merely biological creatures. How do you possess quantum phase technology?" Nari stood up slowly. She was tired, but her voice was strong. "We adapt," she said simply. "It's what humans do." The alien stared at her for a long moment, then looked away. For the first time since the war began, it was the aliens who seemed afraid. 6 months had passed since the battle that changed everything. Jiho walked through the streets of New Seoul, amazed by how much the city had grown. Where once there had been empty lots and broken buildings, now there were factories and research centers stretching as far as he could see. The Kim Kang Quantum Textile Institute was no longer just a penthouse apartment. It had become an entire district of the city. Thousands of people worked there now, all focused on improving and expanding Nari's original discovery. Workers moved quickly between buildings, carrying materials and equipment. Scientists from all over human space had come to study the quantum textile technology. Engineers worked day and night to build new machines that could produce the special fabric faster and in larger quantities. Hard to believe it all started in that tiny apartment, Minjin said, joining Jiho on his walk. Nari's discovery changed everything. Jiho agreed. Not just for our colony, but for all of humanity. It was true. News of the quantum suits had spread quickly through human space. Every human colony wanted the protection that Nari's technology could provide. Military leaders demanded quantum suits for their soldiers. Civilian governments wanted phase-shift shields for their cities. The war against the Velta had turned completely round. Human soldiers wearing quantum suits were now winning battles that would have been impossible before. Colony ships equipped with phase-shift hulls could travel safely through dangerous space. Humanity had gone from being weak prey to being the strongest predator in their part of the galaxy. Even more surprising, the aliens had stopped attacking entirely. Instead of sending raiders, the Velta hegemony had sent ambassadors. They wanted to talk, not fight. "We underestimated your species," the lead Velta diplomat had said during the first peace meeting. "We thought you were simple biological creatures with primitive technology. We were wrong." Other alien civilizations had also sent representatives to New Seoul. They all wanted to trade with the humans who had mastered quantum textile technology. Some offered rare metals. Others provided star maps to distant regions of space. A few even shared their own scientific discoveries. Jiho entered the main laboratory building, showing his identification card to the security guards. The building was enormous, with dozens of floors dedicated to different research projects. He found Nari on the top floor, working in her personal laboratory. She was bent over a complex machine that hummed with the same impossible geometry as her original device. But this machine was much larger and more sophisticated. "Working late again?" Jiho asked, setting down a cup of coffee next to her. Nari looked up and smiled. She looked healthier than she had 6 months ago. Regular meals and proper sleep had helped her recover from the exhaustion of those early days, but her eyes still held the same intense focus that had driven her to solve the quantum textile puzzle. "I'm working on something new," she said excitedly. "Quantum entangled communication rays." She showed him the device she was building. It looked like a combination of computer and textile machine, with threads of the special fabric woven into complex patterns. "Imagine being able to talk to someone on the other side of the galaxy instantly," Nari explained. "No delay, no static. Perfect communication across any distance. How does it work?" Jiho asked. "The same principle as the suits," Nari said. "Quantum entanglement. If I can entangle communication signals the same way I entangle the fabric threads, messages could travel instantly between any two points in space." Jiho looked round the laboratory. The walls were covered with diagrams and equations, models of molecules and quantum structures sat on every table. It reminded him of Nari's tiny apartment, but on a much larger scale. "Do you ever miss the old days?" he asked. "When it was just you working alone?" Nari considered the question seriously. "Sometimes," she said. "It was simpler then. Just me and the mystery of the alien fabric. But look what we've accomplished with help from others through the laboratory windows." They could see the lights of the city spreading out below them. In the distance, the spaceport was busy with ships coming and going. Human vessels now traveled to star systems that had been unreachable before. Trade routes that had been too dangerous were now safe. Every human soldier now wears quantum textile gear. Nari said proudly, "Every colony ship has phase shift protection. Children learn about quantum physics in school. We've changed the entire future of our species, and it all started because you couldn't pay your rent," Jiho said with a laugh. "Life is strange that way," Nadia agreed. "Sometimes the most important discoveries come from the most desperate situations." A communication device on her desk beeped softly. Nari activated it and a holographic image appeared. It was a message from a human colony near the edge of known space. "Dr. Kim," the colony governor said, "we've encountered a new alien species. They seem friendly, but they're asking specifically to meet the human who invented quantum textile technology. They say they have something important to share with you." Nari and Jiho looked at each other. Even after 6 months of success, there were still new mysteries to solve. "Tell them I'll be there in a week," Nari said. She turned back to her work, but paused to look out the window one more time. Human ships were departing for distant stars, their hulls shimmering with the impossible fabric that had begun as one girl's desperate attempt to survive. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity. Again,